All right, hey everybody, welcome back. Here we go, functions part 3 graphing. I'm starting to get excited because this is our last lesson before we kind of tie everything together that we've been learning in functions into our final project. So that's good. This is the last thing we have to master here. So let's look at it. And of course, I'm going to bring back a little review from lesson 1, which was all about trying to show us that a function was a relationship between two data sets, right? And then in lesson 2, we learned about function rules, and we learned how to compute some values of a function, right? So given a function rule like 3x minus 5, we can go ahead and choose some domain values and then evaluate the function and generate our range values doing that. Now, this one is going to give us a tool where we can use those first two lessons, and now we'll be able to generate a picture of that relationship, right? So given one data set and given the other data set, we can kind of see visually how those two data sets relate to each other. All right, so let's look at it here. Actually, maybe we'll keep presenting. All right, so it's interesting to graph them and get a visual picture of the mapping that we're looking at. Typically, the domain becomes the x value and the range becomes the y value, right? So you can see here just a basic mapping that I made up, and then we have some points here, some Cartesian points, 1, 1, 3, 2, 5, 3. You can see that each domain value became an x value and each range value became a y value. All right, so then we can graph those points like that. I did this on Desmos. So there you go. We can graph those points, and this gives us a visual representation of that function. All right, so we should do some practice graphing here, make sure we're all good with coordinate points and function mappings. All right, so question for you, which we'll answer in class, not necessarily here on the video. But what type of function, and maybe type of function is the wrong word here, but in what instance would we use each graph? Okay, so here is some vocabulary for us to be able to talk about function graphs a little bit. We have increasing, so when the graph is going up, it's increasing. When the graph is going down, it's decreasing. And then we have this point right here where it transitions from going up to going down. That's called the maximum, right? So you can see the maximum right here is at the point 0, 4. Then we have our x-axis intercepts, right? So where it crosses that horizontal x-axis. That occurs, it looks like 2 times at approximately 2.8 and negative 2.8. And then we have our y-axis intercept, which in this case happens to be the same point as the maximum, 0, 4. Okay, so those are the key features of a graph. All right, so the process of graphing. We're kind of going to start with where we were in lesson 2, and then we're going to extend it a little further. So given a function, we're going to pick some domain values, and then we're going to compute our range values, and then we're going to graph those points, and then fill in a line going through all of those points, or a curve going through all of those points. So let's see. So here's our function f of x equals 2x minus 5, and you can see I started with the value x equals 2, and I computed that f of 2, function of 2, equals negative 1. All right, and then I made a table using that first one. Actually, I put that one on the second row, and then I computed the values for x equals 0, x equals 4, x equals negative 1, x equals negative 4. So I made 5 points that we can graph. All right, so I graph those points, and then we compute it with a solid line. Okay. So there we go. We can practice graphing some functions. Let me show you how you're going to graph those functions and then turn in your graph. All right, so we have our first function right here, 2x minus 5, and I am going to compute some more values here as promised. So negative 1, and I can't remember exactly what we used, but it's probably fine. I think I remember most of them. Negative 1, and that would be negative 7, and then let's do negative 4 and negative 14. no, negative 13. Negative 13. Okay, so we have those XY values right there. Now we're going to use Desmos to graph those points and then put the line through them. So we'll go to desmos.com, or we'll just search up Desmos. You can click there and then click on the graphing calculator button. Let me show you. Click on that graphing calculator button right there. Desmos is great. It's really intuitive, does a great job of showing math and graphs. So let's see. Let's refer to our table here, and let's start filling in some points. So now we're going to have to be careful to use the parentheses, 0, negative 5. Let's not forget our closing parenthesis. And you can see this red dot appear on the bottom of the screen. Now let's click and drag it so it's a little more centered. We can zoom in on it a little bit. Okay. Now you can just come here and you can type in another point, and that's fine. But I think it's a little bit better to come up here to this settings button, or the edit list button, and click on it. And then you can convert this into a table. So there we go. We can do that, and then we can start filling in the rest of our points, which I'm starting to memorize now. I think 2, negative 1. Maybe I'm not memorizing them as much as I thought. 4, 5, and then negative 1, negative 7, and negative 4, negative 13. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. You can use the zoom out button right here. And you can see all of those points that we've just graphed, and you can move them around a little bit. And now one more thing we can do is if we go to the edit list or the settings, you can click right here and you can turn the line on. Uh-oh. Now it looks like maybe we made a mistake somewhere because I don't see a straight line, which is what I was expecting. I think the mistake is here. Let's see. Where did I make that mistake? 4, 5. That would be 4, 3. There we go. Okay. That's looking a little bit better now. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So there we go. Now this line would also extend in all directions because, you know, we could plug in a domain value of 10, right? And it would be up there, or we could plug in a value of negative 15 or negative 12 or 8, negative 8, right? We could plug in all those values so that line would extend indefinitely in both directions. But alas, we'll just go with this. So zoom in, make sure that these points are visible. Or actually, maybe let's do this. Let's screenshot the entire page like this. Screenshot that entire page like that. Now there are a bunch of ways that you can upload a screenshot into Google Docs. Let me show you one. So the first thing to do is make sure that your cursor's right here, either in this position or ideally one down, put it right here. Then go to insert image and upload from your computer. And perhaps I will edit this out in case this takes a while, but I think, oh no, I think that will be it right there. And there we go. You can see the table, you can see the graph. It's not perfect, but if we were in the classroom, we could be doing this on graph paper and checking it out. But we do what we can with what we've got, and there you go. That's how we do it. Thanks for watching, and good luck.